Shall we? It's reasonable. Otherwise, the participant will be exhausted, so then we will be too late. Don't hesitate, please come in. If there are still people outside, you can tell them, this is the best session. I promise. I should advertise a little bit. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We should go? We should go. So at least I will be the one for introducing the session. So thank you very much for joining this last session for the afternoon after a very long day of presentation. We prepared this session, which is a little bit more scientific and technical, with the idea to share a little bit the experience regarding the drought management, and especially to come back on the aspects that are related to climate. What are the consequences of the climate change on water resources and consequences on irrigation and crops afterwards? So the idea is to share the experience which has been gained in China during the recent years. The interest is, of course, to address a very large territory where a lot of observation have been done, and we would like to do that with three colleagues. Can I have my slides on the screen, if it's possible? Because I would like just to use my slides to introduce a little bit the session before to give the floor to the three presenters. I think maybe it's coming. Correct, yes. So the session is organized with IWHR, so which is a technical institute from the Ministry of Water Resources in China. We would like to share with you some experience regarding recent events. So I'm pretty sure you have seen already this afternoon the same picture regarding the Yangtze River and some of the consequences of the severe lack of water that was observed in the river during the last summer. It was quite impressive. Never at such extent on the Yangtze River over the catchment. It was not only the case in China, but it was also the case in Europe in a very severe way. So you have a nice map which is showing how serious was the drought in most of the western part of Europe during the last months. So we said we had a return period in some places which was over 300, even 500 years. So which is quite extreme. Of course, it had also consequences on the ecological point of view. So this is some pictures again in the Yangtze Delta, where we have seen new ecological environment being affected by such a type of situation. But at the same time, it was not something completely new. It was the case also in Europe, but it was also the case in China, where we discovered some monuments, some statues that were carved and that were located in the stream of in the riverbed of the river some years ago. So this sculpture is 600 years ago. So it means a similar situation has been observed in the past. I don't say the climate change doesn't exist, not at all, but I'm just saying that such a type of drought was already existing in the past, maybe for different reasons, but it's quite interesting to look a little bit to the past and to see what was the situation. Of course, at the same time, such a type of situation is addressing some challenging issues. We have in China some of the oldest irrigation perimeters with a natural irrigation system, which is more than 2,000 years old, which is still functioning according to the original design. And of course, reduction of the discharges may affect the possibility to maintain the irrigation perimeters. Of course, the question which is following afterwards, and as we are dealing with water-food nexus, especially during this conference, is how can we continue to use this water for irrigation, which is a key issue for developing crops and for providing the food in China for the population. So the session will be organized around mainly three presentations. We will try to understand what are the different elements that could affect and describe a real drought. The drought taking place during the wet season, but also taking the dry season, and consequences on the irrigation and on the crop. We will have 3 presentations, 15 minutes for each. The idea is to address first the climate situation, how the rainfall pattern will change, or has been changing over the past years, and how it is supposed to change in the coming years, and to see how it's going on. So Dr. Liu from the National Climate Center in Beijing will give the presentation about that. After that, colleague from IWHR will address the problem of the drought itself, and to see how it was affecting especially the Yangtze catchment. And then our colleague Dr. Niu from the China Agricultural University will address the problem of irrigation and consequences on the crop. So the idea is to have a global overview about the things and to share with you some of the conclusion, but also some of the questions we have regarding the future. So I would like now to give the floor to Dr. Liu from the National Climate Center. So if you can go with your presentation. You can go ahead, you can share your presentation, and we will have it on the screen, and you have 15 minutes. Don't forget to open your mic when you take the floor. Yes, can you put it full screen? Perfect, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Philip. Good evening, everyone. I would like to, I'm pleased to have the opportunity to the topic about changes in precipitation and meteorological droughts in China. The first part is precipitation and meteorological droughts at the background and the global warming more and intensified. Wet and dry climate events are observed and are projected in the 21st century, and the changes show regionally different. As for in China, in the past 60 years, a dry belt was observed from southeast China to northeastern China, with a decreasing rate of 5 to 20 millimeters per year. Agent the belt, wetting region was observed in southeastern China with an increasing rate of 10 to 20 millimeters per year. In the term of median annual precipitation in China, a special pattern was observed. It increased southeastward from northwestern part of China, and the largest amount is more than 1,600 millimeters, but the smallest amount of annual precipitation is less than 50 millimeters 1 year. And for the extreme precipitation, the accumulated annual rainstorm and rainstorm days show the similar spatial pattern with the annual precipitation. That is the more accumulated annual rainstorm and rainstorm days in southern East China and in the regions, increasing trends is observed. Similar to to the drying belt, decreasing trend is observed for the belt in the term of rainstorm days. But for the annual drizzle and the drizzle days, a decreasing trend in the southern China, partially affected by the spatial pattern of precipitation. The meteorological droughts happen more frequently in North China, Huaibei River and the Asian area, southern eastern China and South China. And the drought intensity shows increasing trends in northern China and southern eastern China at the annual scale and in summer. But for the other seasons, the trends, the spatial of the trends are different. And in general, since the 1971, the affected area of farmland by droughts show a decreasing trend, especially since 2000. There are 189 regional meteorological drought events, most of them at the medium or higher drought levels. So how about the future, the changes in precipitation and the droughts in future? NCC have developed some data sets based on the CNIP 5 and the CNIP 6 DCMs, and then downscaled and bias corrected model simulation. Using the data sets, we investigate the changes in some climate variables, including precipitation and the droughts. The results show that the annual precipitation and the maximum 5-day precipitation are projected increase in China, and regional difference are expected. The annual precipitation and the maximum 5-day precipitation increase faster in western and the northern regions of China. The largest magnitude increase is up to 40% or by more magnitude. But for the CDD, the dry spell, it will decrease in these regions, but it increase in the southern China. And as the projections of the droughts, the center of drought events show moving trends from the western region to eastwards and southwards, by the 2050, and the more drought events with a greater intensity and a longer duration, but less drought with a short duration are projected for the period relative to the reference period. Based on the drought hazard, and by combining the exposure and the vulnerability, the drought risk is expected to increase by the end of the 21st century, and the higher emission scenarios entails great risks. As the RCP 8.5 scenario, not North China, East China, and the central parts of Northeast China, Southwest China will experience relatively high levels of drought risk. Using the new data sets, in the term of SPDI and SPEI, the meteorological droughts are projected further. This is the intensity. This is the affected area. These are the frequency. Except for the drought cover, the coverage of small individual events. The other drought intensity, frequency, and affected area are projected to increase at the 2 degree and 1.5 degree warming levels. And for the 2 degree warming level at SSP5, the drought loss to be 20-fold of reference period, about 1.8-fold of that in the 1.5 degree warming level. That is important to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degree, but we can see the uncertainty exists in all the projection, including the precipitation, meteorological droughts, intensity, area duration, and the drought losses. As the global warming, the wet and the dry events become more frequent and have been intensified in this year. In many regions have suffered the most serious droughts globally. For example, Europe, Kenya, America, and the Yangtze River in China. The Yangtze River suffered the most serious meteorological droughts in terms of complex intensity since 1961. The affected area covered the largest slope, and the cumulative precipitation from June to November broke the lowest record for the same day. And the station number where the temperature exceeds 35 degrees accounts for more than 8% of the total station in the basin. And extreme drought event is a compound result of extreme high temperature and precipitation. And so the event have impacts on hydropower, navigation, domestic life, water supply, crop yield, and the ecosystems. And in some reaches of the Yangtze River, the water level declined to the lowest level for the same period in history. And today, some regions in the upper reaches of the Yangtze River are suffering the droughts. It's good news. The droughts will be increased to elevated in some degree in the coming week. Now I would like to give a brief introduction about the role of NCCCMA. The climate operation, research, and service are the main three responsibility of the NCC, including climate monitoring, assessment, prediction, climate change, and climate risk. The climate monitoring and the prediction involved in precipitation, temperature, droughts, heavy rainfall, daily, monthly, seasonal, and the annual scales, such as flood, drought, the precipitation products, including many products, and provide service based on the modeling, monitoring, prediction, and service. Such as, for example, the and the service related to droughts consists of one prediction. This is some production for the Yangtze River droughts this year. It is drought monitoring, soil moisture monitoring, and crop land and drought risk warning, and losses assessment based on the government and the local climate centers. And this is the prediction for this summer. Every year in March, the prediction for the climate in summer will issued updated every month. For the Yangtze River, the prediction catch some areas with less precipitation and higher temperature, but the slope is smaller than the observation. Now I would like to give a summary of the presentation. For the past 60 years, the observation, it is observed the mean annual precipitation and the rainstorm precipitation increased from northwestern China to southeastern China, and the large annual drizzle precipitation in southern China and northern China. The drying belt was observed from southwestern China to northeastern China, and the wetting region in southern eastern China. Increasing trend of rainstorm days, about decreasing drizzle days are found in South China, and decreasing tendency of fertile area of farmland by droughts are detected, and it is projected that annual precipitation and maximum 5-day precipitation increase at a national scale, and the increase is faster in western and northern China than southern China, and the dry spell decrease at a national scale, but increase in southern China decrease in regions, and the center of frequent droughts from western region and southwards, and the increase of risk of droughts, higher level of risk in eastern regions than western regions are projected. The uncertainties exist in all the projection, such as precipitation, drought intensity, area, duration, and drought losses. it's important to limit the temperature increase to 1.5 degree. The limitation can reduce annual drought losses in China substantially. That's all. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much for this nice presentation. I think it was a very nice overview regarding the evolution of the rainfall pattern over China. If you can stop sharing, so then it will give the possibility for the next speaker to take over. We will now move to the hydro dimensions. I would say we will look at the situation within the Yangtze catchment. I think you have perfectly received the message. It would be interesting to stay around the 1.5 degrees to try to limit the consequences, even if we know that we are already going to the 2 degrees and even higher. Unfortunately, we will be not in the lowest curve, but we are going for the medium of the highest. I would like now to give the floor to Dr. Q. So if you can, I think we can see your screen now. So if you can have it full screen, so you can go ahead and yes.
Can you hear me, Professor Philip?
Yes, perfectly fine.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Philip. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to be here to make this presentation. First, allow me to make a brief introduction. My name is Qu Yanping from China Institute of Water Resources and Hydropower Research. The title of my presentation today is The Impact of Drought on China. My presentation has been divided into the following 3 parts. Okay, first part, at the beginning, let's have a brief view of the background of drought throughout the world. As we all know, drought is one of the major natural losses induced by meteorological disasters, accounts for 71%, among which drought-affected loss occupied 53%. And in this year, new historical records of high temperature and drought occurred in many places over the world, especially the middle latitude regions of the northern hemisphere. And just as Professor Philip said, and Professor Liu said, we can see a lot of droughts. For example, the drought in America, it said that it's the once in 1,200 years drought. And in Europe, the severest drought in the 500 years occurred, and also in the drought in China in the Yangtze River Basin. And this drought affects many aspects such as agriculture, cities, ecology, shaping, energy, fire prevention of forest. Okay, now let's move to part 2, severe drought in the Yangtze River Basin in 2022. As the largest river basin in China, the Yangtze River is abundant in precipitation and water resources. However, the Yangtze River has been stricken by the severest drought in this year since 1971. According to the meteorological and hydrological monitoring, the accumulated rainfall from July to mid-October was lowest record for the same period since 1971. And also, the total inflow of Yangtze River Basin is 222 billion cubic meter, nearly 50% less than the average inflow for the same period of last 30 years. And as for the drought evolution process, a widespread drought first occurred in the middle and the low reaches from mid-July, and at that period, mainly as mild drought and moderate drought. And at the beginning of August, the drought continued to intensify, and almost a basin-wide drought occurred. And at the end of August, severe and extreme drought hit almost half of the basin, particularly in Hunan, Hubei, Jiangxi, and Chongqing provinces. Okay, these two photos shows the observed inflow in most hydrological stations, and this observed inflow indicated that it was 30% to 80% less than that of the same period in the normal year. And to illustrate more vividly, let's have a look of the water body change of the largest freshwater lake, Poyang Lake, in Jiangxi province. From the chart, we can see that the water area of Poyang Lake in June was basically the same as that in the same period of the history, slightly less in July, while in August and September, the water area decreased by 50% and 40% respectively. Now let's have a look of the drought impacts in 10 provinces that affected by drought in the Yangtze River Basin at the peak time of the drought, late August. At that time, at the late of August, as for the impact on agricultural production, 2.85 million hectares of crops were affected by the drought. And you can see for Hubei province, Anhui, Jiangxi, and Hunan, Chongqing, Sichuan, all these places have suffered great. A lot of land has been affected, and the people have drinking water difficulties. Another aspect is on the drinking water difficulties. Nearly 4.73 million people have difficulty in drinking water, and you can see that many water was sent to residents living in mountainous areas. Okay, to alleviate the drought impact on the society, a series of measures have been adopted by different levels of Chinese government. Among these mitigation measures, I would like to share the following three aspects. Firstly, the Ministry of Water Resources has carried out two joint regulations of reservoirs in the upper and the middle reaches of Yangtze River. On August 16 to 21, nearly 3.57 billion cubic meter water was replenished for the middle and lower reaches. And on September 12, 2.14 billion cubic meter water was replenished again. All this water was to guarantee the peak irrigation demand for middle and late rise. Secondly, the Ministry of Water Resources has organized 1,983 large-sized and medium-sized irrigation districts to make the scientific water use plans one by one, which provide the guarantee for more than 650 million metric tons of annual crop yield. And thirdly, the drought monitoring or the early warning platforms have been constructed. For example, in Hunan province of Yangtze River Basin, the drought has been effectively monitored and guided the precise location of drought relief resources this year. Okay, now let's move to part 3, the drought pact on China. In general, two trends are expected. In view of the affected regions, drought occurred each year in all provinces, expanding from aerial pouring water to area rich in water. For example, this year in Yangtze River Basin. And in view of the affected aspects, drought impact have intended from the traditional agriculture to industry, open water supply and ecology. And today I just focus on the impact on the agricultural production and the drinking water difficulty in rural areas. First, it's about the impact of drought on agricultural production. As we know, agriculture is the most serious aspect that directly from 1999 to 2019, the annual average area affected by drought in China was 20 million hectares, and the area damaged by drought nearly 9 million hectares, and the annual average area of crop failure from 1989 to 2090 was 2 million hectares. And this one shows the annual average yield loss due to drought, the change pattern. We can see that from the establishment of the new China, the average yield loss due to drought was about 16 billion kilogram. And in 2001, 1997 and 2006, the annual average yield loss caused by drought exceeded 40 billion kilogram. It's a big, very big. And this slide shows the annual change of drought influence rate, disaster rate, and the grain loss rate since 1949. We can easily find that the year of 2000 was a turning point. Before 2000, the drought influence rate, disaster rate, and the grain loss rate in China all showed an increasing trend with a rate of, for example, for the drought influence rate is about 1.72% for each 10 years. And after 2000, the drought influence rate and the grain loss rate all indicate an obviously decline trend. Okay, this slide shows the drought impact on drinking water in the rural areas. Benefit from the construction of rural water supply project, the population prone to drinking water difficulty caused by drought shows a declined trend from 1990 to 2019, obviously. And as for the distribution of drinking water difficulty caused by drought, the most serious area is the southwest region, and then followed by the Yangtze River Basin, the middle and the lower reach of Yangtze River Basin. Okay, let's move to the last slide. A brief introduction. We can see that the drought is different from arid. We as a temporary phenomenon, drought can occur in any places of the world, no matter it's humid or arid, occur in any season, no matter it's rainy season or dry season. It is verified by the Yangtze River drought this year. And the second, drought has exerted great impact on the food security and the drinking water security. And it will have more impact on open water supply and ecology, although today I haven't shared any impact on these two parts, but it will have more impact with rapid urbanization and the attention on ecological civilization. And the last is, as for human, what we can do is, the Changjiang Yangtze River has suffered such a severe drought, but in fact, the impact has been alleviated for a big degree. So for human, what we can do is just try our best to make more precise prediction, forecasting, monitoring, and the risk analysis on one hand, and also we should try to mitigate through engineering or non-engineering measures, and regulate, adapt our human, make more adaptations on the other hand. Okay, that's all my presentation. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you very much. You were perfectly on time, so 10 seconds in advance. I think the slides were interesting, and some of the figures will open the discussion afterwards, because I'm sure that in the participants there are some interesting points to discuss afterwards. We will now move to the third presenter. So Dr. New, you are the last one for introducing the topic and coming back to the I would say more agricultural aspect of the things, so explaining what could be the consequences and how the things could be affected by the climate change, reducing irrigation possibilities, and how could be the possible adaptation on the crop and the agricultural production. I think we need to stop sharing. Dr. Q, if you can stop sharing your screen, it will give the possibility to the next speaker to share his screen and to move on. Yes. She's still sharing. Ah, okay. For you, okay. Technical issue. It's internet, yes, okay, so it's happened. This is not the fault of the speaker.
Recording in progress. Everyone. It's my honor to attend.
Wait. You are going too far, too fast. It's coming back. We had just a small technical problem. Yeah, now you're back, so you can share your screen now if you wish.
Sorry.
Are we back? More or less?
Okay.
Wait. Just 2 seconds. Just 2 seconds.
I share my screen.
Yes, please. Don't move. It's okay.
Is it okay?
Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fantastic. We have it. The floor is yours. You can go ahead, please.
Okay. So it's my honor to attend this conference and the regulation on the changing environment. First of all, I'd like to give you a full picture about the linkage between the meteorological drought and the vegetation droughts. So in China, Professor Liu has talked a lot about the rainfall. It is uneven so across China. And for the linkage between the meteorological drought and the vegetation drought, here the vegetation covers both the natural drought, natural vegetation, and cropland, farmland area. Okay, so you see the right figure, the top one, the right figure, left one is the red part is high correlation between them. So, but this correlation has some time lag. That means the vegetation response to the meteorological drought has some time lag. This time lag could be highlighted at 3 months. 3 months scale drought could have a very direct relation with the vegetation drought. So this is basic analysis. Then we try to classify these drought events in 3 types. The type 1 is, as you can see, the top left figure. Type 1 is along the northeast to southwest. It has a large suffered area with this kind of events. Type number 2, it is quite distributed, so spread it to the southeast China. This part with high intensity, the drought with high intensity, and the rest is least threatened to the vegetation. It is the type 3. Then the right figure is one typical drought event, which is the most severe one, which we identified is in August 2008 and August 2010. You can see the drought started from the northeast China, then moved to the southwest China. There are 3 hardest hit areas. Correspondingly, the vegetation has 3 hardest hit areas. This affection is dominated by the moisture deficit and the increased temperature. So the drought event can definitely affect the vegetation cover. Certainly, both natural vegetation and farmland area. Now I will take one example. This example is in northwest China. It is a Hershey Corridor. It's the famous Silk Road. Okay? So when we look at this drought situation, the drought effects on the crop production, we want to know how about the irrigation water productivity. For the past 3 decades, this irrigation water productivity is significantly increased. This is probably due to many reasons. One contribution is the scientific contribution, because we have the fertilization, we have the pesticides, we have the other agronomical measures to facilitate this improvement. But still, we found there are some about 37% could be improved. So we still have room to improve our water productivity. From the right figure, as you can see, with the increase of the pesticide and the fertilization, this increasement of the water productivity is not that very obvious. So it's kind of there's a threshold. So how to optimal use the fertilization, agriculture film, pesticide could issue our improvement of water productivity. Another part is the meteorological background. As we all know, the climate change, we're always talking about the climate change, the climate warming. So due to our use of the fossil fuels and some deforestation, the carbon dioxide concentration is increased. It is still climbing. Right now it's more than 400 ppm parts per million level. So we want to know, with this big change, how our crop evapotranspiration, how our crop water requirement responds to these surrounding changes. We have to do some experiments. We have a National Operations Center in the Hershey Corridor. We set a climate chamber. this climate chamber could adjust the temperature, adjust the carbon dioxide concentration. So we want to know how the maize responds to the elevated carbon dioxide. We set 4 readings, 400 ppm, that is right now. The 9%, 900 ppm may be projected in later of this century. We do found some difference. You see, in 900 ppm, the maize is higher and with more leaves. And we also try to adjust this fixed relationship between the GS and the carbon dioxide. The GS here is kind of stomatal response. It can reflect the stomatal opening. We found a nonlinear relationship is better. So we use the relationship based on the experiment to revise our model, because some popular model didn't consider this mechanism of the elevated carbon dioxide to the micro effects to the leaf area. Two sides. One side is the opening. The stomatal opening can be closed a little bit because the surrounding concentration is high. So a small amount of land could be started photosynthesis. Okay. Another side is the leaf area is increased because the elevated carbon dioxide is better for the crop growth. So the leaf area increase. This is competing processes. But finally, the maize ET is reduced. That means the stomatal closing is better than the leaf area increase for the evapotranspiration effects. But along the time, these effects will be lower down, and this reduction range, our estimation for to the end of this century is about 1 to 6%. So how to use these effects to reduce our irrigation also is an important topic. And we all know the aridity, the heat is prevailing right now. As you can see for the studied area, the temperature, the potential evapotranspiration is increased very significantly. So we want to know the drought situation, how to affect our crop production. At this stage, we need to remove the scientific contribution. As I mentioned before, the fertilization, the pesticide, this kind of scientific contribution. So we remove them, we have got the climatic year. Then we can, for the different area, for example, the one very small county here, called Minqing here, we see when the drought situation is less than 0.7, it will induce crop reduction. But for another county, such as the Wei, Zhangye, this threshold, this critical value is different. So that indicates the vulnerability. Okay, the vulnerability. Some area cannot stand by to the drought situation. Some part could stand by a little bit. Okay. So then with projection future, you can see this time series is the future drought situation. Below the red line is the threshold, the critical point. So below the red line, that means in the future, in a certain year, it may induce the crop reduction then. Okay. So this is give us some hints how to will mitigate these effects. So here we talk about adaptation. Our studies show the impacts of future climate change on the crop yield, such as on the wheat, barley, canola would be negative, but for the corn, at a certain stage, it is positive. So our adaptation, first of all, we can transfer the area. For example, we transfer the barley and the wheat crops in west counties to the central region, could reduce the decline to the yield. Another may be the corn crops in our eastern counties have kind of adaptation. This adaptation move our idea into the change the crop pattern. That means reshape, redistribute the crop distribution. So for example, the left side is original distribution. The right side is the optimization in terms of the crop water productivity for the maximum the crop water productivity. Then the growing areas, the wheat and the canola, move to the west part. So this is kind of strategy. Then we examine this strategy. We found the irrigation definitely is reduced. After optimization, the irrigation water will be reduced. Among them, the irrigation water shortage in the west is elevated, and the irrigation demand in the countries is increased. The rationality is higher. Another thing is the agronomic measure. For example, the mulching field. After mulching field, we found the crop yield is increased, with a little bit is decreased. And the ET is reduced, and the maximum reduction is reached 35%. And certainly, when we perform the agriculture field, we found some places, for example, for the left figure, the pink part will increase yield. For the middle figure, you can see the pink part is for the saving water. We want to boost the saving water and increase crop yield. So we found the ideal place in the right side. The pink side is in the north part. Here we can both increase yield and saving water. Also, we can try to summarize this kind of effects. That means cumulative temperature at a certain level, the accumulated rainfall at a certain level could be considered to perform the agricultural field. This is a simple way to how to select. Another thing is crop rotation. The crop rotation. Here show you the soybean, the winter wheat, and the summer millet, and the summer soybean, cotton. How to crop rotation? That means sometimes fallow, sometimes spring crops, some winter wheat, sometimes summer maize. And along the time, maybe we have, for example, you can see from the left figure, the different crops, the winter wheat, the spring potato, and the cotton, and the soybean, and the millet. They have different crop water requirements. How to reorganize the land to have maximum water productivity. We somehow have some rotation strategies. For example, WM, winter wheat, summer maize, WS, winter wheat, summer soybean. So different rotation strategy will have the different crop water requirements changes. This depends where and where you perform it. Future, we can projection with the GCM data and the downscaling, right? We have the evapotranspiration requirement. And also, we need to consider agricultural scale. So sometimes we need to design an appropriate agricultural scale to perform our crop planting. And also, we need to perform the water-saving irrigation strategies. So with proper agricultural scale, with proper water-saving irrigation strategies, we can save water in the future. So we can cope with the drought situation in the future. So some conclusion I will not read it line by line, some selected publication. Okay, this brings us to the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for this very nice presentation. I think it was really nicely covering the challenges and already underlining some of the strategies that have been thought and already implemented regarding mitigation of the consequences of the drought and new solution for agriculture. We have now time for some questions from the audience, if there are some right now urgent. Otherwise, I will come back to you. I will take one question because we have one question right now. I will ask if you can have a microphone, so just to be sure that the presenters can hear you properly.
All right. Hello. My question is for Dr. Niu. In one of the slides, I think I saw that you were trying to compare the cropping yield from two different areas. So what I understood is that we saw drought resistance of different crops and their yield, or the effect on their yield due to drought. But one thing that I'm not sure if you had considered was the soil structure and soil texture, and the consequently the water holding capacities in those areas, which can also have an influence, I believe, depending on the soil type of that area.
Yes, thank you for your question. It's a very good point. Certainly, this crop rate distribution, we need to consider the soil structure, the meteorological background, and some farmers' agronomical measures way. So this kind of background or land surface features should be considered before our perform the optimization. So that means this optimization already consider the different local situation. It doesn't just consider meteorological background. That doesn't just consider the temperature, the rainfall pattern, this kind of things. We need to consider the land surface features to incorporate them together to say which is the optimal distribution to face the future temperature change and the rainfall pattern changes.
Okay. Happy with the answer?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any extra question from the three presenters? If not, I would like to come back to some of the presentation and to have a first round of questions. Coming back to Dr. Liu, who was doing the overall presentation regarding the rainfall precipitation, and who was given, I would say, information about the drought, and especially in the southwest China over the past 60 years. Can you tell us a little bit more about the future? So you were telling a lot of things regarding what has been observed, but what could you say regarding future projections, result of models? So Dr. Liu, if you can elaborate a little bit on that, I think that would be useful to have the perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah. There. This slide.
Yes.
What's the question?
The question about the future projection of the drought, 就问了刚刚的预估刚刚的变化Next.
Oh. In the next 30 years, the centers of breakthrough drought events are projected to move from the west the location eastward and southeastward at the three emission scenarios. And the more drought events with greater intensity and longer duration, but less drought events with short duration are projected for the period. But the result not shown in the slide.
Okay, but so the message is that potentially the events will be more frequent but shorter.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's basically the trend of what you are producing. Is it something that you see with any type of scenarios, or only for the most pessimistic one?
Next is scenarios. Next.
Yeah.
This is different scenarios for the drought risk.
That's drought. The drought even location. This is a risk, drought risk, and combine the drought hazards, exposure, and vulnerability. Add the RCP GP5 scenario. The relative high level of drought risk is projected in North China, East China, North China, East China, Northeast, the central part of Northeast China, and the southwest region, the southwest region, with higher level of risk.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Q, regarding your presentation, when we look at the figures that you presented, we have a decreasing trend regarding impact on agriculture and drinking water. So could you just elaborate a little bit on that? Because it was maybe a little bit surprising for the people in the room. So if you can give us a little bit more insight regarding those points, because it's disturbing results.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Philip. The question you asked is a very good question. Okay. From the chart, we can see that both affected area and the yield loss, and also the drinking water difficulty, it seems that they indicate a very obviously decline trend. But I think we can think about this question about the changing pattern from two aspects. On one hand, to reduce drought impact, China has carried out a series of engineering measures. For example, we have constructed a lot of water storage to water pumping projects. So all these engineering measures have played a very important role in alleviating the drought impact, just as I showed in the Yangtze River Basin drought this year. The ministry have regulated the water resources for two times, and so this kind of measures can guarantee that although the drought is very severe, but the disaster is not as that serious. It's the first part. And then also in our country, in China, we have done a lot on the non-engineering measures, especially from the year of 2000. In China, in 2000, there is a very big drought, even more serious than this one in Yangtze River Basin. That one is the big drought throughout the country. From that, our country has tried to make a transit from the crisis management to risk management. So we have paid more attention on non-engineering measures. For example, we try to establish a system of drought response plan, and we have made the first drought mitigation plan since the establishment of the new China. In 2000, many projects and non-engineering measures, we have made a play lot of that. And also we try to monitoring and forecast drought. Maybe the forecast is very difficult, just as Professor Lewis talked about, but the drought monitoring also can help the politics or the technical to make some early warning, answer your question. Okay, thank you.
Yes, so I think we can understand the message, which is strong investment regarding monitoring first, a lot of engineering effort. So you have seen the number of reservoirs that have been created to store the water. One of the questions will be, are those solutions sustainable? So are they sufficient if we have an evolution within the climate which is more than what we have faced up to now? We can wish that those solutions will be enough to provide the resources to the farmers and to the villages where the drinking water is requested, of course. Dr. New, I have also some question to you regarding the future. We were already addressing a little bit the questions. I was wondering, among the different solutions that you mentioned for optimizing agriculture, is there any way to try to invest the possibility to change some of the crops, to introduce new crops that are maybe requesting less water and being more easier to adapt to the new climate and to the new irrigation conditions?
Thank you, very good. About this question, I think it is difficult to provide a simple answer because, as I show you in the figure, we can identify the different crop water requirements for the different crops. So at this point, it seems we just select the less water requirements, such as the millet is okay. But this kind of situation is we have the socio-economic or even the cultivate berries, because we need maize, we need wheat, because they have the requirements. So at this point, I would like to say some alternative crops could be some alternative strategy. For example, for the crop rotation, compared to for the conventional winter wheat and summer maize rotation, actually we can try to introduce some soybean, a peanut, a sweet potato, this kind of even millet into the rotation. That is, the alternative rotation could be soybean, wheat maize, the peanut, wheat maize, the spring maize, wheat maize. Our experiments show this kind of change could reduce amount about 11 to 30% of water requirement. So this also give us some hint. We don't change too much about the crop types, but we still make some changes because we have some needs. We have some compulsory requirements. We cannot give up all the types just to select this one is less water requirement. Okay, this is my point. Thank you, Feipu.
Just to continue and to elaborate a little bit on that point, it means if you want to adjust rotation, you need to have accurate forecast. So what are you dreaming about regarding forecasts? How long in advance you need to know what will be the conclusion? Half a year? 1 year ahead? You told us something which was very important. You said the drought, to be sensitive on the vegetation, is about 3 months. You see impact of the drought 3 months after the deficit of rain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very good point. So this is incorporates efforts. We need forecasting. I think the session from the meteorological part, they are very important to provide some forecasting. We have the long term, we have short term, we have mid term forecasting. For example, sometimes our drought may be affected by El Nino, South Oscillation, even the Indian Ocean dipole. So the telecom connection will affect our region. because less moisture coming. So how to forecast this kind of long-term prediction is one point. Another point, sometimes we need to 1 week or 2 weeks, even 1 month, 2 months, the short-term forecasting, because this is very important for our drought mitigation. When drought probably occurred right now, so you need to know how long it will last, or how it will perform, or how will move along our region. So this is very important to know the forecasting situation. So certainly this crop rotation should be fit to the forecasting situation. Then we can have the high benefits. Otherwise, sometimes it's just based on experiment. It is difficult to perform. So this is the challenging task. This is why we have a session to talk about it now. So thank you, Philip.
Thank you. Is there any extra questions within the room following the development that we heard from the three presenters? Or everyone is happy? Yes, please. So just wait for a microphone, because otherwise that will be difficult for the speakers to catch you.
Thank you. So it's a little bit a question, but also a comment. So we have seen that the forecasts are showing that the draft, or the number of drafts is increasing slowly, but we have these very extreme events. And I think it's nearly impossible to make a forecast at the moment. Yeah. And agriculture is more a long-term project. It takes time. So I'm not sure if it will work. If you have these extreme events and you try, you are always after the event. And it's a planning. Yeah. I think it's difficult. It's not only the rotation because of the need of water, it's also the soil quality which might be changed by rotation, and also this you have to take into consideration. So I'm not sure if it is really the best adaptation, and also changing places. And that you say, now I go to another region for wheat or soya or whatever. It's for the moment, but maybe in half a year, because we have several extreme events, maybe you say, okay, it was a nice try, but it has been an error.
Yeah. No, I think it was underlined by some of the speakers. This is what they can do right now with the knowledge they have to try to answer to what are the current situations they are facing. If it's getting worse in the future, maybe the current solution will be not sufficient, and then we need some adaptation. I have a last question, so maybe for Dr. Q, and because she was mentioning if she is still there. No, she's not there anymore. Maybe
yes, I'm here.
Okay, you are there.
I'm here.
I was okay. Just willing to ask you if you can just give few comments regarding the Yangtze drought that we are facing right now. You did already some release of the water from the main reservoirs in order to support the irrigation and to be sure that the water is coming to the farmers. What's happened if the drought is continuing during this winter? Because you mentioned already this exceptional drought that was almost for 2 years, 2 consecutive years. What's happened? What will be the situation in 1 year time if we are still in the same situation and if the drought is continuing over the winter? What will be the strategy in that case?
Just now, Professor Liu said that, in fact, the drought in Yangtze River Basin, most of the places, some places, for example, the Chongqing province and Sichuan province have been in the late of September, but Hunan province and Jiangxi province in the middle and low reach of Yangtze River still suffered a very severe drought. And maybe several days ago, I just think about the question: how should we do if the drought continue and the rainy season will come just will be the next March or April. So how can we? There are still several months till to the rainy season. So how should we do to alleviate the impact? As for me, I think there are several paths. I think first, I think if this situation will really happen, all the people in the society should pay more attention to the water saving. Everyone should save water as much as they can. If you don't, maybe next day you will not have water. I think this is the first one. Then, the Yangtze River is the largest river basin in China. Maybe in the middle and the lower reach of Yangtze River, they still have have drought, but the upper reach of the Yangtze River they have alleviated. They have more water. They have stored more water in the reservoirs. We can try to transfer some water or through the water regulation to try to help the lower reach and the middle reach of Yangtze River. This is the second one. And I think also, just now Professor Liu talked about something about maybe we can try to change the pattern of the agriculture production. In Hunan province and Jiangxi province, they usually spend a lot of water. Agricultural water is the most important source of water consumption. So if we can try to make some change on the agricultural production, we can also relieve the drought impact. I think that's all. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I know the questions are very difficult, and the only option will be to say we will talk about it next year, and hoping that the rain will come and we will not face a more serious situation. I think we are almost on time, so I would like to thank the three speakers for the very nice presentation they did today. I hope it was useful for the people attending the session. I know it was very technical in some extent, and we had to deal also with the technical issues for being online and so on. So once again, thank you very much for attending and participating. I think it was very nice and very well received from our side. I would like to thank the audience for joining the sessions, and also I would like to thank the people attending online. I know that some people were also online. I think the presentation will be also available, and if you are willing to exchange with the different speakers or presenters of today, I will be happy to convey the messages and to exchange with my colleague in Beijing if you are interested to engage discussion about climate, about hydro things, and also regarding agriculture. So I think the door are widely open. Once again, thank you very much in Beijing. I wish you a nice evening in a temperature which is a little bit cooler than in Bangkok. So we still have 32 degrees. You are around -10, I think. So only 40 degrees difference. But we hope that the snow will come soon and bring some water also within the catchment. So with that, I would like to conclude the session. So thank you very much. See you soon in Beijing, and thank you and have a nice dinner tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.